Everybody have a working microphone?
Test, test, test.
Yep.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting of Sandwich Council to order on Monday, October the 19th. We have our usual council meeting, followed by a committee of the whole, at which time I will invite Councilor Plant, the sitting chair. Before I start the meeting, I just wanted to make mention to some correspondence that I received from the Gorge Tillicum Community Association regarding the boats in the gorge, and in particular, a derelict boat. And I wanted to let the Community Association know that we will put an item on the next council's agenda to bring the issue forward with some information from staff and allow council to weigh in on the issue and to do something about it. It's a bit of a thorny problem given the jurisdictional nature of the waterway, with the federal government, the provincial government, and ourselves all seeming to manage the same piece of water, depending on how far away you are from it or what happens to be in the way and so forth. So I think that will be the best way in supporting the Community Association and trying to move this issue forward. It seems to be something that plagues the waterways, mostly in Victoria, but there's the potential for this issue to move down the waterway as Victoria applies for a licensed occupation. So with that, I would like to move on with the agenda, and let's look at adopting the minutes from the previous meeting. Madam Clerk, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are for the minutes of the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting held October 5th.
Move the minutes.
Second.
Any changes to those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question on adoption. All in favor? Opposed? Unopposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. On to item B. Next item, please, Madam Clerk.
This is bylaws for final reading. The first bylaw is for the final reading of bylaw number 9346. This is for the rezoning at 3999 Cedar Hill Road. Council has also requested to approve the issuance of the development permit. This would allow for single rezoning from single family to RT4 attached housing for proposed 5-unit townhouse.
Second.
Question from Councilor Dermott.
More comment, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to mention again that I regret that I'm not going to be able to support this particular development. It's an ideal place for density. The development itself is, I think, reasonably well thought out and fairly decent. But the big stumbling block is this kind of major center, I think, will only be accomplished in the long term anywhere close to what it could be if we follow this, if we have a visionary planning exercise and essentially know where we are going and what we're trying to accomplish. Zoning this kind of center as a series of one-offs, I think, will result in us accomplishing far, far less than the art of the possible. And that is unfortunate. That is something that council will have to decide whether it wishes to do or not. If we don't do it, I think we will wind up with clearly second best. And so I find myself in a position where I can't support this kind of one-off zoning in an area that desperately needs to be comprehensively planned with a long-term vision of its future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Quick question to the recording clerk. Is that being captured for the record? Thank you so much. Any other discussion? Councilor Haynes, please.
I appreciate the opinion of my... Is this on? Yep. I appreciate the opinions that were just expressed. At the same time, is there a suggestion of what kind of mechanism that might take to move such an initiative forward? So in wishing for it, how does council then act on that? Not a question, I just like that as a statement, and maybe that's a thing for council to ponder as we go forward.
I think I prefer we just took that as a comment and not be debating at final reading. I think it's outside of our protocol, but they're good comments. So with that, I'll call the question on final reading. All in favor? Opposed? Councilor Dermott is opposed, and the motion carries. Thank you. Next item, please, Madam Clerk, number 2.
We also, Mr. Mayor,
oh, sorry, did it
yes, then.
Move the approval of the development permit.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councilor Dermott is opposed. That motion carries. Thank you so much. All right, now we can go on to
This next item is the tax exemption bylaw number 9350 to exempt certain lands and improvements from taxation for the 2016 through 2019 year. This is for final reading.
Move final reading.
Any discussion? Seeing none, final reading, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item, please, Madam Clerk, number 3.
Final reading of the tax exemption real property bylaw for riparian land and heritage property. This is bylaw 9356, again to exempt certain lands from the 2016 through 19 year inclusive for final reading.
Move final reading.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councilor Brown, just scratching your head. None opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. Next item, please, number 4.
This next item is final reading of the official community plan amendment bylaw 9355. This is for proposed amendments to the streamside and deep development permit atlases.
Move final reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. So that finishes our section on bylaws. We'll now move on to public input. If you'd like to speak on items D, which is the oil burning and equipment and flammable liquids, combustible liquid fuel tank bylaw, that's a mouthful, or the letters for expression of interest from the BC Lottery Corporation, I'll invite you now up to the microphone to speak. You can give your name and address, and leave your comments to 5 minutes would be most appreciated. If you wish to speak to any of the addresses on the back of the agenda, please save those for the committee of the whole. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak to items D and E? Calling for a second time. Any members of the public? Calling for a third time? All right, seeing none, we'll close that portion of public input, and we'll move on to item D, bylaws for 3 readings. Madam Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for a bylaw for 3 readings of the oil burning equipment and flammable liquid and flammable combustible fuel tank bylaw amendment. That really is a mouthful. Bylaw 9344 for first 3 readings. The intent of this bylaw is to update the various references to zones within that parent bylaw.
Move first reading. Second.
The race conditioner. I'll call the question on first reading. All in favor? Opposed?
Move second reading.
None opposed, that motion carries. Some second reading. All right. Thanks, Councilor Sanders, second to that. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
Move third reading.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Haynes. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, let's move on to item D. Madam Clerk?
Second is a resolution for adoption. Before council is the report of the chief administrative officer recommending that council provide direction to staff further to the request from the British Columbia Lottery Corporation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Bryce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to move that Saanich approve the request to provide an interest in expression of interest in being considered as a host local government of a gaming facility.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Haynes. Thank you. Councilor Bryce, would you like to continue?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is like the pre-period, and so I think it's just one of gathering information. And I think that once more information would be available, that would be a good opportunity to engage the community in a discussion. But I think at this point it's just simply indicating that we would be open to being considered. So I think it's low risk.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor German has his hand up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor, I agree with the comments of Councilor Bryce, and I can understand that some people have disagree with the principle of gambling, and gambling by government. The problem is that it's all around us. We have gambling on the internet. We have all sorts of sports gambling, including these fantasy whatever leagues and so forth. There are, of course, any number of stores where you can buy any amount of lottery tickets if you so choose. And in this case, it happens to be in a casino, but it also happens to be the only one where the municipality is able to share in some of the revenues gained. Whether or not governments should be operating on revenues from gambling is an important moral question, but the point is, right now, they are in this municipality in a very substantial way. So I think it is reasonable for us to indicate that, yes, there might be an interest, find out what that would involve, and then make a decision from there. There will be, I suspect, another casino somewhere in this region, probably close to the borders of Saanich, either in Saanich or in Victoria. And so it's something that I think, to the relief, it would help to give taxpayers that it's worth looking at what are the consequences. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Workman.
Thank you very much. It's just like going back about 15 years, and there's some things that I really don't change my mind on. And I guess I've never seen gambling as an amenity for a community, and I don't see it as something that makes for a stronger community. And I realize that it is here, but more doesn't necessarily make better. And I'd have a hard time supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Plant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I would echo the comment. I will support this motion. I echo the comments of Councillor Bryce, and that this is a baby step, first step. I would also remind Council, we already have a gaming facility in Saanich. It's called Playtime Bingo. And the discussion around whether or not we want to have gambling in our community is a good conversation, but we've already crossed that threshold. It's now going to be a matter of what color of gambling are we comfortable with. So at this point, sending our name forward with the idea of perhaps lightening the load on our municipal taxpayers, I would be in support of exploring that.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes.
I'll be speaking in support of this motion, which is why I seconded it. And I look forward to a conversation with Councillor Dorman on these fantasy gaming experiences that he is reporting.
Those are football games.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Oh, okay, not fantasy. Right. I'll speak in support of this. I recognise what Councillor Plant just said. We already have a gaming facility here at Bingo. I listened to some of the description of what community gaming can be. I'm not sure it's a full-fledged casino, but we'll see what they bring forward. The opportunity to identify what kind of type and to reduce our tax load and put other revenue sources to work for Saanich residents is something that has appealed to me. And I think by putting our hat into the game, we don't lose anything by being part of the process to find out what's involved. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any more discussion? For myself, I'll support the motion as well. A few letters have come in already, but without knowing more from the Lottery Corporation itself and the details, I don't think we can have a discussion and find out what the interest of the public is and whether or not we should be providing them with a choice or not. So I look forward to submitting this and finding out more. So with that, I'll call a question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Councilor Workman is opposed, and that motion carries. So that completes the formal portion of the agenda, and I'd like to look for a motion to adjourn and move to committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second by Councilor Murdoch. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Councilor Plant, Mr. Chair.